Now, as amazing and unbelievable as the near-death experience was that you describe in the book, and just so remarkable and beautiful, I think the other thing that's just as amazing is your life, how it's changed since then. I mean, just so people understand how we came to be talking here today is even more amazing, I think, where you had written a blog, or you were trying to make sense of what you experienced. And a friend of Dr. Dyer's, Mira Kelly, read this online. Out of all the millions of things that are out there on the internet, brought it to Dr. Dyer's attention. And he was so moved that he came to Reed Tracy, president of Hayhouse, and said, you need to contact this woman and see about getting her to write a book. And then you called Dr. Dyer's radio show, which I remember because I saw your name, Anita from Hong Kong. I'm like, oh, let's go to Hong Kong. So there was just these kind of synchronistic, amazing events that came together. And if anyone out there is a writer and is trying to get a book published, you can imagine, it's so difficult for people to get published. And just your life kind of totally did a 360 and totally changed. And how did you handle that? I mean, just things must have been, I can only describe it as totally different, because you were working in kind of the corporate world, and
yep.
None of this was part of your experience or anything. And now your life is so different.
It's incredible how my life has changed. I didn't even set out to be an author and a speaker. It sort of happened to me. And the weirdest thing, and this is what I tell people, is the weirdest thing is there I was being myself because I'd had this incredible near-death experience, and I thought, I have to share my story. So I wrote it on the internet, and I didn't even put my real name to it because I didn't want everybody, because I was working. I started working again with corporate clients, and I didn't want my corporate clients, I didn't want to mix the two worlds. I didn't want them to know that I was this person that had a near-death experience and had this cancer and amazing healing, and I didn't want it to detract from what I was doing. So I just kind of set that story free, and it reached Wayne Dyer. And there I was working, not even thinking of, it wasn't even something on my radar to become a writer and a speaker. And yet, when it happened, when it unfolded for me, it was such an amazing fit. It's like today, I cannot imagine doing anything else. And this is what I tell people. You just have to be who you are. Your only purpose is to be who you are. And what is truly yours will come to you. You don't need to chase and pursue it. The reason why we feel the need to chase and pursue things is because we're all so busy trying to be somebody else. We're leading a life that is not our own life. So the problems we face are not the problems that we should be attracting. And so we're chasing and we're pursuing and we're getting lost. But your only focus should be to be who you are, be your authentic self. And then what is truly yours will come to you. And it was incredible how it all unfolded because, as I said, my name wasn't even on the blog. And the people at Hayhouse actually tracked me down. And Wayne started talking about this blog, which Mira Kelly had printed out. And she even knows Wayne doesn't go on the internet and read stuff. So she was moved by the story. So she printed it out, and it was like 20 pages long, and gave it to him. And he said normally he receives these things, he doesn't have time to read them, and he gets so many, and many of them just go in the bin, and he thought he'd read the first couple of lines just to see what it is before deciding what to do with it. And he said he couldn't stop reading it. And he called he called Hayhouse, he called Reed Tracy. But in the meantime, he started talking about it on the radio, on his radio show, Hayhouse Radio Show. And a friend of mine, she calls me up, and she's a friend who'd known about my NDE. I've known her for years, and she's a Hayhouse fan. And she called me up, and she said, do you know that Dr. Dyer is talking about you? He's talking about some woman from Hong Kong who had a near-death experience and healed from cancer. I know he's talking about you. And I said, really? And she said, yeah, he's been talking about you for weeks. that's when I started tuning in and decided to call in and say, hey, it's me.
Isn't that crazy? It's just, if people deny that magic exists in this world, I mean, your story is magical. And then the other story, because it's like there's two stories, the other story of what happened to your life after is just so unbelievable, because you're right. Dr. Dyer, usually he doesn't get email. He doesn't even, answer anything like that. And so for him to get the story just really confirms your message that, when you are living your authentic life and you're taking those steps in that direction, and then just the universe conspires to work in that way, and things happen, and it's just really amazing. It's just so amazing.
Yeah, and I was even told that it's hard to get through on the show. So, I woke up at 4 a.m. Hong Kong time to catch the show, because of the time difference. And I just called in and I got through, and mine was the first call that was picked up. And as soon as Wayne said, oh my God, it's Anita from Hong Kong, I know exactly who that is. And he told you to hold all the rest of the calls. And we took the rest of the show.
Isn't that great? Because everyone in the blog, I think it was just Anita M.
That's right.
It wasn't even your full name. So there was some amazing detective work to track you down. And then here you are, and then the book is a bestseller. People are loving it. And Dr. Dyer, still recommends it and gives it away and carries it in his car and gives it to people because it's just such a beautiful and powerful story. Well, we've got some great callers stacked up here from all over the place. Really interesting calls today. Yeah. So let's start off in Hong Kong, which seems like an interesting place to go. Anita on line 2.
Oh, my goodness. I think I know who this is.
You do?
Is this Anita?
Yes, it is. I couldn't resist calling you.
This is another miracle. This is Anita M., the woman I've talked about on this show so many times, who's now going to become a Hayhouse author, who had her near-death experience. I listened to your radio interview there. Oh, my goodness. You were sent to me by Mira Kelly, the one I just talked about, who did the past life regret. Oh, my God. How are you?
Wow. I'm very well. I can't believe I'm talking to you. I'm thrilled.
I am. I just love you, and what you did on that near-death experience. I am. You're signed with Hayhouse now. Is that right? You're going to become a Hayhouse author.
Yes. Yes,
oh,
I am,
I'm so
and
thrilled.
I'm so happy. I'm
going to write the foreword to your book if you would like me to do that, and
I would love it.
And I want to bring you to America and put you on my public television special, so that you can tell the world about what happened when you had 36 hours to live and were told that you had lymphoma all throughout your body and you had this experience. Tell my audience, I'm so honored to have you here. Tell my audience a little bit about what happened with that experience. It just blows me away. I'm just sitting here. This is like a miracle of miracles. Even that Diane would take your call. I didn't know you were on the line, Diane. You just picked up. You've heard me speak about this.
No,
woman.
And it's funny when you had that you recognized the caller. I just saw Anita from Hong Kong, and I just thought it would be cool to go to Hong Kong. That's great.
Oh, my goodness. Anita, I think I might take the rest of the show with this, or at least another 10 minutes or so. Tell my audience what happened and what your experience was. You said it so beautifully in what you had wrote about. I can't wait to see your book. I'm so happy about this.
Oh, thank you. I'm really thrilled to speak to you. Well, what happened to me was that I had cancer. I had lymphoma, which spread throughout my body, and it spread like from the base of my skull, all over the lymph nodes, all over my neck and my body, under my arms, everywhere, all the way down to my abdomen, were all swollen. In fact, I had tumors. I was told that I had tumors the size of lemons all through my body. And I had cancer for about 3 years and 8 months. It seemed to go up and down in between because I was practicing Ayurveda, and then it would get better, but then it would come back. Especially, I notice now, looking back at the pattern, that when I used to be really, really fearful, that's when my health would get weaker. But about in the end of 2005, around December 2005, I went and had a full body scan, and the doctor told my husband, they didn't tell me, but the doctor told my husband that I only had about 3 months at best at that time. Mm-hmm. By that point, my muscles had already deteriorated. I was confined to a wheelchair, and I had open skin lesions. And by February the 2nd, 2006, I was on oxygen. I had an oxygen tank, and I was being cared for at home by a full-time nurse. But on February the 2nd, the morning of February the 2nd, 2006, I went into a coma. So my husband, he was freaking out, and he called the doctor, and the doctor said to rush me to the hospital right away. When I got to the hospital, the doctors said that it was over, that it was too late, that these were my final hours, and I probably wouldn't come out of the coma at all. And that was when I... Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. No, you speak so eloquently. I don't even want to interfere. But you died. I mean, you essentially went into what we call an NDE, but your body just shut down, and you were. And while you were in the coma, you were hearing things and seeing things at this. Now, tell my audience about this.
Yes, I could hear and see everything that was going on around me, because the doctors had told my family that my organs had already shut down, and basically I had died. And they said, although my heart was still beating, but I had died, that there was nobody in there. And so, but I was aware of everything that was going on around me, everything that the doctors were saying, everything that they were doing, the needles that they were poking into me. They were telling my husband that I had fluid in the lungs, and they said that, and then even though, I was like in a coma, my breathing was quite labored, and I was on oxygen, so the doctor even stuck a needle into my back to remove some fluid. And I remember every single thing, and including I became aware of things beyond my body. I was aware of my brother getting on a plane who was just coming to see me, and I then started to become aware of my father, who had passed away 10 years before that. I was aware that he was around me. My best friend, who I'd lost to cancer, she was there, and I could sense that they had been around me this whole time while I was ill. And then I started to understand. I started to understand why I had the cancer, and I started to understand that it wasn't my time. And I had a choice of whether I wanted to come back into my body or to continue into death. At first, I didn't want to come back into my body because my body was just so sick. And it was so amazing on the other side. It was, there are no words to describe it. And I still get a bit tearful when I think about it, because there's just no words to describe it. It's like this unconditional love, and this, you feel this clarity of, like you know why you're here, what your purpose is, why you've come into this planet. That's how I felt. I felt like I just understood everything, my purpose for this life, why I got the cancer. And then I seemed to understand that if I chose to go back to my body, now that I understood, then I wouldn't have the cancer anymore. If I chose to go back and live, the cancer wouldn't be there in my body, because now I understood why I even had the cancer.
Yes. You said something about that you realized that you not only do we have a physical body, but we have like an energy body or a spiritual body, and that the illnesses that show up in our bodies are preceded by these. And if we could heal this energy body or the spiritual body, if we could heal that, then that would take care of the physical body. And that there was a sense that you knew that you could do this, and when you returned to your body, that it would no longer have cancer. Something to that effect. Is that correct?